2, 1, clicking go live now. What is going on, everybody? It is Jacob and Donovan here, Miami Dolphins Syndicate. We are a little bit later than normal. Ooh, that is, you guys are hearing that on the other end. My bad. We are a little late. Deal with it. You get that with us. Sorry.
Oh my god.
Donovan, how you doing today, sir?
I'm doing pretty all right.
We're mostly responsible.
Yeah, we're mostly responsible. This just happens to be he worked in like just before the stream, and we upgraded some stuff, so stream should actually be a little bit better on your end, actually.
Oh, I was just gonna specify. Yeah, on my end, we are currently experiencing the slightest of technical difficulties on Donovan's end because storms cause his Wi-Fi to absolutely go poo-poo. So hopefully, every single time I've been afraid we might lose you, it's actually ended up fine.
Yeah, so far so good. I do have a flood warning over here, but hopefully we'll be good.
So Donovan might get swept away with peacocks and alligators, guys.
Imagine my satellite's just underwater. That's crazy.
And you're still alive somehow.
Somehow, some way.
Before we start, so we've been to a few of the training camps. There's nobody in here yet, but you guys are going to start to come in, and I assume one of the guys that's going to come in. And we finally got to meet one of our fans in person, Cap-a-Lot.
Yeah.
I assume he's going to come by. We'll retell us and say thank you for stopping by. But we're just sitting there, and we always would joke about when we finally get recognized by a fan, and we're a small YouTube channel. We recognize that this is a fan channel, that we're just doing it because we enjoy the Dolphins. We enjoy making content. So we enjoy making content for you guys. But it's like just like tongue in cheek, like one day we're gonna get recognized in person, and it finally happened.
It finally happened, and Cat for Life came up to us. And guys, don't be shy to come up to us. I mean, he may be a little shy at first.
Me? But I ain't shy.
Yeah. But just
come
up
like
to us,
people.
Say what's up. Neither do I, but I'm still friendly.
I also don't like most Dolphins fans. Sorry, guys.
Okay, you just
Sorry. There's a lot of Dolphins fans that just absolutely piss me off one way or another. On all sides of the spectrum, in terms of where they stand on different subjects, they just all piss me off.
Agreed, but I think that's just any fan base. You're gonna find that.
No. 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 Yeah. No. There's a special type of pissing off that I get with my fellow Dolphins fans. Like, I don't get pissed off really at all by Manchester United fans, albeit that's literally across the ocean, so I'm not around a lot of them. And I guess Heat fans can get kind of annoying too. Maybe you're right. Actually, maybe you actually have a point. Marlins fans don't exist. Panthers fans don't really exist, so we don't really hear from them. We don't really get annoyed by them. Actually, Panthers fans, I guess, a little bit. Panthers fans a little bit.
Out of the two Panthers fans we know, one of them's really annoying.
That has nothing to do with the Panthers, though. That's just who he is as a person.
All right.
But we'll get into this. So, obviously, training camp, what we're going to be the main topic to talk about today. And within that, just so many things to talk about. How's Tua looking? I've gone to two training camps. He's gone to a third training camp. How's Tua looking? How's the offense in general doing? So, we're talking about running backs, wide receiver situation, offensive line, defensive line. I'll just, get it out now, is looking absolutely fantastic. And good things that we've seen from the team. The one, downer is the fact that we lost Jalen Ramsey, but a lot of positivity that we've seen around camp, and a lot of good fights in terms of within position groups, not literal physical fights. But we'll just, jump straight into it. So we're what? Did they practice today?
They did not practice today. Today was an off day. So. But in the news of today, they did release the punter that was competing with Jake Bailey. Don't remember his name because he's irrelevant.
We all knew Jake Bailey was going to be the guy.
Yeah, and then they did release Bennett Williams, who with an injury designation. So if he clears waivers, he goes on our IR. But if he can get picked up by another team, so basically he either gets picked up by another team and has the possibility of playing again this year, or he stays on our IR and gets paid for doing nothing.
Yeah. So for a multitude of reasons, one way or another, nothing's been necessarily blowing you out of the water. Like, we talked last week on the stream about how last year we were so focused on how Tua's doing, every throw he's making. We're waiting for a Travis Winfield tweet. We're ready for a clip coming out from the Dolphins. We were, on knife's edge trying to figure out, is he good or not? And now this year, we have a lot more security. We know how he is as a player. The injuries is something that worries us, but that's not something we're going to figure out till the season starts. So since we can look beyond the quarterback situation, which has been positive. We'll get into that specifically. It's nice to actually be able to sit there and watch everybody else on the field instead of just the one guy like we were last year.
Yeah, it's crazy because I remember last year, we only went 1 day last year, but I remember we were watching Tua the entire time. Wherever he was on the field, that watching. This time we got to look around a little bit, looked at the cornerbacks. We got to look at the defensive linemen, the offensive line and defensive line having their one-on-one battles. Even special teams we watched a little bit of.
Yeah, yeah. It's nice to be able to get that insight. The one negative thing, I guess, might as well get it out of the way now, is we're seeing why the team wanted to go out and get Saquon Barkley and why the rumors are starting to circle around about the Dolphins putting in an offer for Jonathan Taylor. Nothing's happened as far as we're aware, but also we weren't aware about the Saquon Barkley thing, and then next thing you know, after he signed his contract, we find out the Dolphins were attempting to get him. The running game is the one concern. You've seen for 3 days, I saw for 2 days. The team cannot run the ball up the middle whatsoever. And part of that, 100%, part of that is due to the fact that the defensive line, both in the run game and getting pressure on the quarterback, has been phenomenal. I mean, a rotating door of talent, of guys that are doing what they're asked to be doing. Obviously, we're still waiting to see the full scope of how this new defense looks with Vic Fangio. But the one group that, without a doubt, is having success, no matter who it is the defensive line. But we do look at the running game, and you have to take it for what it is. It is struggling. We've seen a few runs. We saw Myles Gaskin had like a nice 20-yard run 2 days ago. There's been some individual moments where, okay, that's probably going to be like a 6 or 7-yard game, but whether it be to just lack of talent or especially lack of size, specifically running up the middle, it has seemed almost impossible by this running game.
Yeah, it's anything up the middle is just like maybe 2 or 3 yards. More than half the time, it's stuffed in the backfield, and we didn't really see too much of. We didn't see any of Jeff Wilson Jr. in the team drills yesterday. Now he did return to practice. We didn't really see him at all in the team drills. I've been there 3 days. I didn't see him at all.
Yeah.
And Mostert, we only saw a handful of. It was mostly Savon Ahmed, Myles Gaskin, and Devon Achane, which are our three smallest backs. So, but it's clear that they can't run up the middle. Any successful run that we've had so far this training camp, at least open to the fans, has been to the outside, to the boundary, and just using the speed to get around the corner. That does, play in the hand of we do have some good pulling guards, and by some I mean Robert Hunt, and maybe Dan Feeney. Who knows how he turns out?
Who knows what position he's playing? Because we saw him getting some reps as backup center.
He was getting reps as backup center. I think he even got a rep at left tackle. I think Liam Eichenberg got a rep at left tackle. So I mean, it's training camp, so you want all the positions to kind of like. You don't. What's the word I'm looking for? You want them to kind of be diverse. Like, okay, so in case of injury in the season, like we know that this guy could step in and play this position. Kendall Lamb has been pretty decent, but that goes for he's a backup. So
yeah. And the offensive line is without their best piece. We haven't seen Teron Armstead in any of the 11-on-11 drills. He's been full participant pretty much everywhere else across the board in drills, but we haven't seen him come out there in the 11-on-11s. And certainly that makes a massive difference as to how the running game is going to be operated, as to how protected Tua, Skylar Thompson, Mike White ends up being. We haven't seen Blackman get any reps at quarterback, but he is there. Yeah, he is there, but the running game, the passing attack has not had a lot of time, a large part because of the defensive fronts. But as I mentioned earlier on, you get to watch how the rushing attack is, and there was their dump offs, which is something that we've talked about throughout the offseason, as we want to see the passing attack look to dump the ball off more often and make the specifically the linebackers be more honest and play closer to the line of scrimmage. So there is still the ability to that, like you said, get into the outside, have the guards swing out. There is the ability to do that, but you need to be able to run it up the middle at least a little bit, and then opens up the conversation for Jonathan Taylor. So Donovan, we've talked I don't think necessarily that Jonathan Taylor is going to get moved. I just have this sneaking suspicion that something is going to end up working out where he, at the very least this season, plays for the Indianapolis Colts, and we'll see what happens for the future. But it is definitely a worthy conversational piece that he might get moved, and the Dolphins are certainly a team that are going to be in the mix for him. Knowing how bad the offensive line is getting a running back like Jonathan Taylor, I don't know how anyone else put this, but necessary.
See, I don't necessarily want to put necessary on there. It definitely would be, something good to have because, like I said, we haven't seen too much of Mostert. We haven't seen any of Jeff Wilson. So those are the two guys that are really going to be the ground and pound up the middle type of guys. Savon Ahmed, Miles Gaskin, Devon A-Chain, those guys are all speed guys, pass catchers. Ahmed can, if he has room, like a hole in the middle, he can hit the hole with speed. But other than that, he's not going to run you over. He's not, that kind of guy. So to have someone like Jonathan Taylor that can run you over, can pass catch, can do all these different things that, yeah, we have all these backs that have different specialties, but Jonathan Taylor can literally do it all. Same thing with Dalvin Cook. Obviously, Jonathan Taylor, much younger, much better right now. One of the best running backs in the league. So I don't think he plays for Indianapolis at all this year. I think he's just completely done. I think what Irsay has done with him and in that organization, he's just done with the Colts. So whether he goes to the Dolphins, I've heard there's been rumors to the Bears, to the Chiefs even. But like I do think he gets moved. I'm hoping the Dolphins are one team that can make a stronger push because it's not necessarily that he wants to be paid and that's why he's leaving. It's more of the comments that Irsay has made and how he hasn't even made an offer to him. And like all this came out after all the disrespectful things that Irsay said about running backs, about what's going on, and then he had a conversation with Jonathan Taylor and, said, if I die today and you never play again, no one's going to miss us.
That was wild. Which he's not, like, I understand what he's saying from that. He's not entirely wrong, but it's just one of those things, like, why is it even worth saying?
Exactly. And just to go beyond that, like, so that's just one of the things. He's been notorious for doing this stuff, like just speaking out completely unhinged over the past 10 years or so, especially when he had that massive DUI where he ended up getting punished by the league and suspended or something.
Forgot that happened.
That was a while ago, but like it's not his first time, not his first rodeo. So I don't expect Jonathan Taylor to bother playing for this team. Would be honestly better for him to almost pull like a Le'Veon Bell type of deal and just sit out for a year. Although Irsay's trying to, be the mean boss and be like, yeah, or I can hold you for 2 years. But guess what? No one's gonna play with you if you do that to Jonathan Taylor. Yeah. If you take away from, him and the fans of this game, no one's gonna come play for you. No one's gonna want to get paid from you, even if you want to pay them.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting situation to watch how Jim Irsay handles this situation from here on out. Now, I'm not sure if I remember this correctly, but I do believe they've had some sort of conversation since what he said, since that happened. But even if it's not necessarily Jonathan Taylor, and even if it doesn't actually get done, I was pretty vocal about when Josh Jacobs, and that's still a possibility, Josh Jacobs wanting to get out of Vegas since he doesn't have a long-term contract. Saquon at the time didn't have his contract, and now with Jonathan Taylor, you have 3 running backs on the board that have so much talent, are still in their early to mid-20s, have so much left in the tank. Theoretically, we know the running back situation. Once they start to go, they start to go. And we've seen in years, it makes sense why teams have been reluctant to pay their running backs. But the Miami Dolphins clearly have an issue with the running back group. And that's why part of why last year I think they didn't go to it. Now, Mike McDaniel's come out and said that he didn't do a good enough job calling plays for rushing attacks. He didn't do a good enough job to set up situations where they can get dump offs and just in general get the running backs involved. And I believe him when he says that. However, I'm remiss to say that, I don't even know if I use that word correctly. I have to say that I think a lot of it is because he just doesn't trust his running backs. You have 3 or 4 guys being with Mostert, with Wilson, with Gaskin, with A Chain, and also with Ahmed that we like them for one reason or another. They're good in space, decent hands, decent route running for a running back, but none of them has any sort of workhorse value to them where you're going to a game and you're trusting them. I don't know how this team schemes up plays throughout the week because I don't think they really know and really trust one particular guy going into any particular game. If you have a guy like Jonathan Taylor on the board, the ability that he has and the availability that he now has potentially in the trade market, even though the Colts said they don't want to get him, I understand the reluctancy to not give him a contract, but I can't just help but fantasize what this offense would look like with a workhorse running back and the speed to go around him. Offensive line isn't that great. We just saw Josh Jacobs get the rushing crown with a terrible offensive line. Why not have the same situation down in Miami? And the vibe I'm getting from all the players, and I think you can attest to this too if you've seen a training camp, I get the vibe that guys really enjoy playing on the team. I'm seeing smiles. I'm seeing Bradley Chubb, who is coming off a kind of disappointing season ever since he came over. I'm seeing smiles from him. Jalen Phillips, all around just a good vibe. Jalen Ramsey, even though he's hurt, he's hanging out on the sidelines during camp, and he just got here. I'm getting a really good vibe that guys enjoy playing here. Jonathan Taylor in a situation where clearly he's not enjoying himself, and we can come over here and immediately, before he even steps into his first practice, he's already pretty much guaranteed to get like a 65% snap percentage or more in the running back position.
100%. But you're forgetting 2 backs. They're still, without even trading, Dalvin Cook and Kareem Hunt are still available. Both are still in their 20s. Both still have the ability to be a workhorse back for at least 1 to 2 years. So those guys are also options. But, Jonathan Taylor, just how he is, and he never missed a game before last year. And he had that ankle injury that he had was lingering throughout the entire year. He did get that cleaned up in the offseason. Now he's on the PUP. It's just a crazy situation. I don't think they put him on for the back injury. I think if it was the back injury, they would have put him on the NFI list, which then that would have been a whole nother situation. PUP, they still have to pay him. And it's a football injury-related situation. NFI would have been off-season training on his own. But yeah, man, I just imagine what this offense would be like with someone that, when Jeff Wilson's on the field, for instance, you're either going to run the ball or he's going to pass block. He's not going to run a route, or even if he does, you're not going to throw him the ball. They're not worried about Jeff Wilson running a route, catching the ball, and turning it into 10, 15 yards. Mostert, okay, maybe a little bit, but when you see Savon Ahmed out there, when you see Devon A-Chain, you're not really worried about, you're not going to stack the box when they're in there. You're probably just going to keep your 4 guys in there and let them work. You're not going to, stack the box because...
Why would you?
They're not.
I argue. Why would you do it with any of our guys? They did it last year. No, I wouldn't stack the box for Jeff Wilson. We saw a lot of 3 and 4 man fronts, even in obvious running situations last year, just because they knew that the running game isn't that good, and then the offensive line isn't going to make their job any easier.
Yeah, and it's wild, really. Like just thinking about this running game. No one's fearing this running game right now.
No.
And now it could very well be that that's just how good our defensive front is. And I keep saying iron sharpens iron. So, but right now I'm using your quote. It's more like iron sharpening wood.
Yeah, I did come up with that.
You did. Yeah, I'll give you your credit where credit is due. It's just like the defensive front's just dominating the offensive line. But what's funny is that in one-on-ones, the offensive line dominated the defensive line. But then when you put them all together, it's the same thing. Wide receivers were cooking the DBs in one-on-ones, and then you put it all together, and it's just defensive dominance.
I think
I
I
was gonna
think
say, I
sorry,
think
your connection is really killing me right now, bud.
that's my bad, my bad. But I was gonna say, Tua pointed out, I think a part of the reason that the defense works so well is because it looks the same on every play, right? At the start of the snap. When the snap when they snap the ball, that's when the defense changes and you can see if they're in man or zone or whatever. Uh, and I think that really helps them disguise what they're doing.
Yeah, I was going to say what I was going to say before is I think it's easier to grade the 1v1s with corners and wide receivers than it is offensive linemen and the defensive linemen, because so much about offensive line versus defensive lineman is schemes and having everybody else around you and kind of trying to paint the picture of what you want to do. I think we can just transition into how we're talking about the defensive line and how it's been the stark contrast, how the running back group has struggled, and arguing about what the reason is behind that. And one of those reasons has to be how the defensive line is playing. I mean, I don't care who's in there. The team doesn't care who's in there. They've been the most electric group to watch, and the casual fan, the most of the people in the stands aren't really focused in on how the defensive line's doing. But you're sitting there yesterday when we're there, and you're looking up all the different numbers to see who's who, and it was a different name every single play who bust through on a rushing attack and got made first contact behind the line of scrimmage, or coming off the edge and might have been a sack. Maybe Tua would have scrambled out of it. Whether it's the rush, whether it's in a passing play, they're getting there. They're getting home, and that was the biggest issue, arguably the biggest issue with the defense yesterday. Last year was that they just weren't quite getting there. You saw Chubb countless times, Phillips countless times. They're there, but they just can't quite finish, and the secondary was then hurt because of it. And it was kind of a yin and yang, and that the secondary fell apart, and that gave the quarterbacks, they weren't as worried about when they were holding on to the ball. They knew they could get the ball out quick because they don't feel the secondary as much because all the injuries we had. Well, the defensive line, they weren't getting there as well. But now they finally are. Now they're finally finishing, and the rushing attack has been stifled. Again, whether it's Raekwon Davis, Zach Zeeler, your boy Pili, however you pronounce his name. Brandon Pili. Everybody on that defensive line is eating.
Yeah, and it's going crazy. Like, even the linebackers, just the speed that the linebackers have. I've seen Channing Tindall get in there plenty of times. David Long, Aubrey Miller. Like, those are some three brand new linebackers pretty much. Channing Tindall was here last year. He didn't get any playing time.
Basically brand new, might as well be.
Basically brand new. So 3 almost brand new guys that are just put in here, and they're excelling in this defense. And that's what Vic Fangio, he does so well. He puts guys in a position to win. And so I heard a lot of talk about, so last year, and obviously the Brian Flores defense, Josh Boyer defense, was secondary based. So the secondary was so good that it gave the defensive line time to go and get the sack. Now it's almost the opposite, where our defense is helping out our secondary. So we're focusing and scheming up. Like, I talked a lot last year about how we didn't stunt enough. Like, we didn't run enough stunts. If you guys don't know what stunts are, it's basically you have the 2 linemen and one goes over here, one wraps around, it goes over here. It's a stunt. But we didn't run enough of those last year, and I did see a lot more of that to start training camp. And on top of that, Brandon Pili's really showing out. Like I said, the linebackers just everywhere, and they're able to cover. Like, I like Landon Roberts as a leader. He's not a good middle linebacker. He's like he can't cover.
Certainly had his limitations.
Yeah.
Yeah. Defense in general too has been something that's been interesting to watch, and that second now second at one point was the conversation about the cornerback 3, and what we saw in the 11-on-11s, unfortunately to me, and I'm sure you're happy with this, with Noah Igbenogany was running as the cornerback 2. Don't flex. He was terrible. He was
not terrible. What are you talking about? He had one bad rep against Waddle.
He sucked in the one-on-ones, and
bro, everybody got burnt in one-on-ones.
That's not true.
Everybody.
Cam Smith had some good plays, and we're going to talk to him. We're talking about him. Talk to him. Hey, here's Cam Smith. Imagine.
Hey,
Kadir Kahu, I'm pretty sure I remember him having some good one-on-ones.
hater.
X. I'm sorry, I keep calling him Kadir. I promise I'm not doing it on purpose. I'm not that guy. I'm not that guy, pal. X did get torched by Tyreek Hill twice on pretty much the same route, within a
Yeah.
3-minute period. But to see Igbo out there, and maybe it's because
Igbo had
both
3
Eli
reps on
Apple,
one-on-ones.
Eli Apple isn't maybe up quite the speed with the defense. Cam Smith's a rookie, and you want to be sure about him before you thrust him in there with the ones. But going into the season with Igbo as the cornerback 2, come on, even you, somebody who's, I'd say, arguably the biggest fan of Noah Igbenogany besides the man's family in the world, like, even you have to be looking at that situation like, okay, I like him, but I don't hope he's actually the cornerback 2.
See, I'm confident enough in his ability. Now, going into the Chargers game, I don't want him on Keenan. I don't want him on Mike Williams.
I don't want him on the field.
Bro, come on.
No, I'm serious.
Okay, what? Let me talk. So, Igbo, he's... And X talked about this. Omar Kelly's talked about this. Joe Shad, Barry Jackson, every single person besides you has acknowledged how much better he's been this camp. You just happen to see his 2 worst reps in the entire camp. And that's okay. It's practice. That's not the game. And he's going up against a Waddle. He's not going to be going up against Waddle level caliber players. That's not who he's going to be lining up against.
As cornerback 2, yeah, obviously Jalen Waddle is the best wide receiver 2 in the league, but there's also a lot of good wide receiver 2s in the league.
There are, but if you look at our schedule, and I went over this in a YouTube video, is that we don't really face, besides the Chargers, a good duo until October. And that's when we play the Eagles. And then after that, we don't play another good team until Ramsey's supposed to be back. Wide receiver wise, like a good duo wide receiver wise. And I'm perfectly content with him playing those 2 games against the Chargers and Eagles as our CB2. Now, given Cam Smith, arguably, so he's been getting a little bit more lost, but his recovery has been a lot better than Igbo's. Igbo's recovery a little bit slower. Cam Smith, that first recovery step is just instant. He's there on the ball, trying to bat it away. I mean, given Tua's throwing darts out there, but
he has been, which we'll get into.
Yeah, which we'll get into. But so he's been just on his stuff. Igbo, it's really a battle between those 2 for CB2. It looks like, as of right now, at least Cater's going to be lining up in the slot, and they're just going to let either Igbo or Cam or even maybe Eli Apple play the CB2 role. And obviously, right now, Igbo is the guy, according to the last training camp where he was in there. Although True Will could be, very much in that conversation soon. He did get his first team reps of the offseason.
Yeah, then that's definitely very promising. He got in there. Brandon Jones got in there playing safety just a little bit. It's kind of funny. Like when Trill got in there, I remember saying like, "Oh, he's in there, but he's not going to make any contact." Immediately, it's a rushing play. He immediately goes up and initiates contact, which you love to see. That means he's feeling confident in his body. That's a lot of things that's one of the things that guys who sustain those those long-term injuries where they miss the entire season is gaining that trust in their body once they're back onto the field. And your first live rep, it's a rushing play, and he was playing a little bit off coverage and full sprint. I think it was either Durham Smith or one of the tight ends just head on hit pretty much, it made the contact. And I'm pretty sure like the guy, whoever was blocking on that play, was kind of a little hesitant to block him. And then he just full speed, basically just full presses the man, which again, you love to see because that means, I expect him to play probably, if it's not the first preseason game, maybe the second or get some time in the third preseason game because he's clearly looking like he's ready, has to get his stamina up a bit. But best case scenario in my mind in terms of how the cornerbacks are going to line up is obviously Jalen Ramsey, when he does return, is going to be in at the number 2. But for the time being, Xavier Howard, best case scenario for me, I would love to see Cam Smith get that number 2. I mean, he was really impressing me watching Tuesday's practice. I mentioned him multiple times. He's got what Igbenogany is supposed to have, which is that raw athleticism, which I guess he does have. But he has those. He's very natural corner instincts. He has a good first step breaking towards the ball. He has a good ability just to get his hands in on the receiver and disrupt the pass without getting a penalty on him. You have the things you want to see from a guy in his first training camp with the team as a rookie. So I've seen nothing but good things from him so far. And then following after him, again, Kohu's going to be in the slot, so he's not in this lineup. And when Nick Needham comes back, he's also going to be lining up in the slot. And maybe Kohu gets pushed back out. But for the time being, best case scenario is Cam Smith, probably Eli Apple, and then a healthy Trill Will, and then Igbenogany. I'm not saying this. I'm not saying this.
Best case, bro,
I'm not saying this as an Eli Apple fan. Am I missing somebody?
But like Eli Apple.
Give me Eli Apple over Igbenogany. I'm saying this right now, and I'm saying You can make this. You better make this into a short afterwards. I am 100% taking Eli Apple. Like, I understand the guy, has a lot of memes about him because he gets burnt like toast every now and then. I understand that. I understand that last year he had like the second worst percentage in man-to-man coverage behind Jalen Ramsey, which is kind of odd. But anyways, I'm pretty sure that stat's real. I'm pretty sure I did make that up. I understand those things are true, but Igbenogany is that bad. So I'm taking Eli Apple.
He's not that bad
every day over Igbo.
Oh my God, bro.
I haven't seen him change my mind. I haven't seen him change my mind. I saw I think a Travis Winfield tweet saying that Igbenogany's had his best camp. I understand that, but actually physically with my eyes, what I've seen from him is just a not good cornerback in his 3 years, and then now the training camp.
So in his 3 one-on-one reps,
burnt.
No, he didn't.
At least 2 of them.
Waddle put him in a blender, and then
and then Robbie again he did.
And then Robbie didn't. No, Robbie just pretty much ran past him, just straight speed. I mean that it was a press coverage. He got by him, and so what? Robbie did that to X earlier. Tyreek literally did.
X gets the benefit of the doubt.
And X gets the benefit of the doubt. Whoop-de-doo. But then he went on Waddle, and then he went on Waddle again, and he had really good coverage against Waddle and actually batted the pass down on a comeback route.
You're just like, I don't remember this.
I literally pointed it out, and then that's when I showed you the tweet from Joe Shad that said Igbo's had a better camp.
I remember you pointed out. He
tweeted that literally right after that rep.
I have a hard time believing because I haven't seen anything that has made me change my mind on this man.
And then I literally watched him every snap of when he was in the ones. I watched him closely every single snap during 11-on-11s, and he was in position. There was one time where I'm like, damn, he got burnt, and then I realized that he was just going out into zone coverage. Like, he let the man go, and he had good coverage up until his guy broke in, and then he had the boundary, and then the safety was supposed to come up and get the guy. And that's when I said, oh, damn, he got burnt. Oh, wait, no, it's zone coverage. And that's what I was talking about also with Fangio disguising the defenses. Like, we didn't even know it was zone, given these guys are obviously professional football players. They're going to know it's zone before we do. But I didn't see it was zone until he broke off of the guy. Like, he had tight coverage on him. That ended up being... I want to say that ended up being the throw that made it over David Long's hand to Waddle in the middle. I want to say that was the rep that I'm talking about specifically. But every single rep that Igbo is in there, he didn't let a pass go by. Like, he didn't let someone catch a pass on him. There was one where he let him catch it underneath, but that wasn't his guy, and then he came up and made the hit, tackle, whatever. Yeah, stop yawning over there, sir. Igbo's had a tremendous camp so far. And
tremendous is wild. Oh
tremendous tremendous. I would compare it to Trill's camp last year. He's showing up and showing out. And then on the other hand, Cam Smith is also showing up and showing out.
He has, and there's
Eli
a
Apple
much
has
bigger
been.
difference between the two. A guy going to his first NFL training camp and already showing much more natural
They're the
instincts at the
same
cornerback
age.
position. I don't care. He's played
They're the
3 years.
same
It doesn't
age.
matter. It doesn't matter. He's played 3 years of professional ball versus college. Even though they're physically the same age, there is a massive difference of being in the NFL, playing against NFL athletes, getting NFL coaching, NFL nutrition versus coming from straight out of college. And so far, the guy who's straight out of college has looked much more natural, much better instincts, and just the overall better corner.
Cam Smith's problem though is holding, and it's ironic because his pro comp is Sauce Gardner, the holding master. So it's
You're getting okay. I understand maybe Sauce is a little bit overrated, but you're getting a little wild with the Sauce Gardner slander.
I say he's top five. He's just not in my top three. I would he's borderline top four. I would say
I don't know where I have him, but
I have Jalen, Jalen, AJ Terrell, Patrick Surtain. Those are my top four.
Patrick Surtain has to be higher on the list. Patrick Surtain
Well,
100% has to be higher on that.
that was no order. That was no order.
Okay.
No order. Patrick Surtain is probably number one or number two with Jair.
Okay. We'll switch from corner to something that sounds very similar with quarterback. And we started off this by talking about how last training camp we were so focused on how Tua was playing. Every single throw was scrutinized, was praised, whatever the result of the rep was. It was one extreme or the other. But this year, don't have that same word. We know what we're getting from Tua. We know what we're expecting in this offense. And so far, what we've seen in camp has been very similar to what we saw last year, where a lot of these routes that are being run, a lot of where they're looking is getting those breaking routes, either breaking out, breaking over the middle of the field, 15 to 25 yards down from the line of scrimmage, and it's been working. That's exactly where Tua and this offense want to operate from, and they're doing it very successfully against a defense that we talked earlier on the stream has been pretty successful, and Tua is still maintaining his level of success so far through camp.
Yeah, Tua's been great. Like almost on point with almost every throw. Now, given he did have one or two underthrows in the last camp that we saw, and he also had one slight overthrow. But he's been really solid, and especially like you said, the 10-15 yard range over the middle, he's been money. And it's funny because over the first 2 years of his career, he struggled over the middle, but was like money on the corners, or on the boundary, I should say. And then last year, he showed that he's great over the middle, struggled a little bit on the outside throws, but now he's showing this camp that he's almost money with both. But like you said, they've been living in like the 15 to 20 yard range. I want to see different levels to them. We haven't really seen too many shorter routes, like 5 yard, 10 yards. It's almost been like the running backs stay behind like the line of scrimmage, and then everybody else just runs 15 yards downfield. I want to see different levels because I want to see some quicker throws. Like, yeah, we have the fast guys that can get 15 yards in 2 seconds, but I want to see maybe some 1 second throws, some almost like
some timing throws
like
that you're
like
not even reading the
defense.
defense. You're going straight to it, and I definitely would like to see it. However, I guess the argument against that would be the routes that they are running are
successful.
They're six. Well, yes, but that's not the point I was going to go to. Those routes, those timing routes, they're slightly anticipation, but further down the field. Those are things that you want to get. It's easy to throw, snap the ball, throw it to the left, and let the play run out. These are plays that require a little bit more chemistry, a little more coordination, a little bit of better timing. So you want to get these reps in against 11-on-11s. So it makes sense that these are especially since we know this is the primary target of the passing game is to get it 15 to 25 yards, mostly middle of the field. We know that's where they like to live. So it's the primary point of the passing game. It's a little bit harder to actually put out into practice in game. So I understand why they're doing it. The thing that I've been impressed about with Tua in something that maybe it's not a main point, but I remember it was, I think, the Monday practice. I think it was like the first or second throw by Tua on the 11 on 11s. It was I think it was a go route down the left sideline, and it was a terrible throw. It was one of them that could have been intercepted. Actually, maybe been down the right sideline. Whatever, doesn't matter. Could have
That's
easily
right,
been
but yeah, go
because it
ahead.
could have easily been intercepted. The corner and the safety came together, and the ball fell to the ground. And that was like one of his first reps of that practice. And I remember saying to him like that's a tool we saw a lot. At kind of in the Packers game where he was already concussed and was just kind of just throwing it up, and you're like, what are you doing? Like the Steelers game, actually, I think is the one I referenced, is where like, he should have had like 3 interceptions that were just dropped, and he was making throws like, what are you doing? But he had that one throw that he's made before that has kind of put him in some bad momentum, and then immediately came back out and didn't necessarily light the world on fire, but went right back into the rhythm of the offense and had some nice throws, came off. Skyler got some reps, Mike White got some reps, and came back on and was basically unaffected by that mistake that he made. Whereas last year in the game, if he made a throw like that, even if it wasn't intercepted, it would then affect him for the next few throws or even the next couple drives.
I'm gonna disagree with you on that. I think he, over the past couple of years, he's been very good about when he makes a mistake on the field, he comes back and just absolutely, not light the world on fire, but he does really good. Like I believe, uh, in the last year, Brian Flores, every single time he threw an interception on a drive, the very next drive, he came up with a score, whether it was a field goal or a touchdown, almost every single time.
Well, definitely that Steelers game. In the Packers game, obviously had the concussion, so it's a little bit different. And maybe
That
it's
was a little
those.
bit different.
Maybe it was the just that almost like, oh crap, like I almost screwed up. Whereas with the when you actually make that mistake, you know what you need to go do, go do and improve upon that. Those ones that are
Yeah,
almost is like, oh my gosh, I was so close. Like, let me make sure I don't do that again. But
yeah.
either way, whether I'm right, whether you're right, I was impressed by his ability to make a absolutely horrendous throw. A throw that we saw Dak Prescott basically make the other day, and it got lit up all over social media. Except his was interception, Tua's wasn't. Basically made the same exact throw and go back out there and just do what he's supposed to be doing in the offense. And this is year 4 Tua. This last year, the first year with Mike McDaniel, it took a lot of positive strides. It was 3,500 yards, 25 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, a lot of injuries in there that really disrupted that flow. And now we're looking at year 2 Tua. So far through camp, it's been all positive strides. And again, if you just stay physically upright, I can see a 4,500 yard season. I can see a 35 to maybe 40 touchdown season. How he's playing currently.
Yeah, absolutely. And to kind of go back on what you were saying, how he like turned around. The one thing I wanted to add on that I didn't get a chance to was, so you said he made that mistake, then came back and just didn't let it affect him. What I liked about it was, normally when he makes that, he kind of like has bad body language, and he's just like he's beating himself up. Now he's letting it roll off. He's like, my bad, dude, I got you next time. Like that's what he's doing now, rather than trying to beat himself up over a one bad throw.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, for sure.
And to go further on, like he looks so much more comfortable. This is his second year in this offense. We talked about that a lot. This is his first time in a consecutive offense since he's been in the league, in a same offense. And so they get to expand on this offense. It's not learning another new playbook. It's not, having two offensive coordinators, given you kind of can argue that he does with McDaniel and then Frank Smith.
Right.
I'm sure you didn't even know Frank Smith's name.
I probably could have came to it eventually.
Probably, but eventually. But just like the continuity. Yeah, I use that word right.
Donovan successfully
The-
finally figuring out the English language. 11
yes,
streams
ladies
in.
and gentlemen, 11 streams in. But the continuity that he has around him for the first time in his career, having the same receivers, having good receivers, we can argue over, who should be the third receiver in this camp, and we'll do that in a little bit. And just like it just makes sense for him to be better this year than he was last year if he could stay healthy. I do want to say one more thing about him staying healthy. So Mike McDaniel pointed out an instance in where he actually used his jiu-jitsu training in camp. Someone stepped on his foot and he started falling backwards. Normally he just fall, probably get knocked out, maybe a concussion. He actually used his he actually used his jiu-jitsu, did almost like a somersault, landed on his feet, and was all good, no injuries whatsoever. So maybe that's something we can look forward to. Him protecting himself and staying on the field this year.
Something I want to see is a comment made by Teron Armstead, whether what sort of match to his jiu-jitsu would have against Teron Armstead's boxing. I think I'm about 99.9 infinity 9% sure I know who's taking that battle.
Come on, man. There's weight classes in fighting for a reason.
Well, there ain't no weight classes in street fights.
Like, okay, so who's the better pound for pound fighter, all time, Anderson Silva or Derek Lewis?
Me.
Anderson Silva. I'm still taking Derek Lewis in a fight.
Yeah. I almost fought.
All right. William, I'm glad we're 3 years removed from his hip injury. Looking for him to return to Alabama form as far as him throwing outside the numbers. Honestly, his mobility last year looked really good, in my opinion, compared to his first 2 years. They said it was the first year that they were actually able to train without recovering from his hip injury. So that's according to his trainer, Nick Hicks. Last year was the first offseason that they focused on strength and throwing the ball rather than focus on recovering from his hip. So it's like a backwards roll. But yeah, so last year, especially, was it the Ravens? I think he did the move a couple times in the season, but I think it was the Ravens game the first time he did it, where he just absolutely shook the defender out of his boots when he did that little spin move.
Yeah,
like he did a fake and then spin.
That's pretty much the extent you're getting out of his mobility. He had some decent runs in college, and he's had a few runs in the pros, but he needs to know where to move and where to not move. And as much as I've rolled my eyes at the jiu-jitsu training, I think it's relatively comical because it is. It definitely is going to help. He's not going to be somebody like Lamar Jackson who's going to be running on a regular basis. If he can just do well with the hits that he takes, it can't be as bad as last year.
Absolutely, man. But I will say he's been looking kind of fast in camp. On a couple of those rollout throws, he's been looking faster than he. Now maybe it's because we're closer to him that he looks faster, but he does look a lot faster than he did last year.
I think it's. And sorry, go ahead,
I would like if we're gonna put it in a Madden rating, I would say last year he was probably like 76 speed. I think he's probably like closer to 79, 80 speed this year.
I don't know if I give him. I don't think I would give him that much. So yes, it is partially because of how close we are, and also because the defensive line isn't trying to hit him. They are actively trying to not hit him. So as soon as he starts rolling out, the defensive line's like, all right, I'm just gonna start jogging now.
Well, yeah, but there was that one play where, you weren't there for that one. Okay, so there was one play on Sunday, where he was being chased full speed by Jalen Phillips and Christian Wilkins, and he ran it. Now, given it was probably a sack before it got to that part, but they were still full run chasing him.
Full or like
ran and cut up field
75, 80.
No, they were full on sprinting after him. Jalen Phillips was in the running man motion, just full on, head down, just sprinting, and Tua made it past him, bro. He was looking a little quick. That was the first time I've really seen Tua run, because most of the time we watch him run, he's kind of just like jogging almost, it looks like, and then he's like tries to do his little shake and then run someone over, which he shouldn't be doing. He's not Josh Allen.
You are not that guy.
Yeah, he did it twice last year. He did it twice last year. Didn't have to run in college much. He really just needs to stop playing hero ball, check down, or throw away. Agreed. He was much quicker in college before
Yeah.
the injury. You can tell the difference with his quickness now. He's 3 years removed from the injury. Just took
Yeah,
him
no, 100%.
in year
He
one,
had
and
some
so
decent runs in college. He had like a 40 or 50-yard touchdown where the entire time he's looking over his shoulders like I'm not getting hit. I'm not getting hit. I'm not getting hit. I'm not getting hit.
I remember that highlight specifically. He was just like,
He's like, please, no, no, no.
it's like
Oh,
it's like
hey, you made
the
it.
it's like the it's like the Daniel Jones run when he
I
tripped
was
over his own
just
feet.
thinking that. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, that's not who he is, and he's not going to do that in the NFL. Like, yes, he was doing that against SEC competition at the time, but he's not doing that against NFL players. He'll occasionally make somebody miss, and everyone's like, "Ooh, wow, nice!" And once every now and then he'll run somebody over and be like, "Oh, please don't do that. Please don't do that." But he has some mobility, and he's going to use it in short bursts, short instances, and that's all he really needs to do. Speaking of the two in the passing game, do you think anybody's really emerged yet as the wide receiver three? We've had so many conversations about who we think's gonna be it, who we want to be it. Has anybody truly set themselves apart to you?
100%, and it's easy, easy.
That's
To
probably
me,
who I'd
it's
lean. Yes.
to me, it's a two-way battle between him and Braxton Berrios, but I think Braxton Berrios serves.
No.
You're gonna. Yeah, I'll let you talk in a sec. Braxton, every single rep I've seen him in camp has been in the slot, and he does his thing in the slot, which is why I'm giving this easily to Easy E. He's the guy. He can play the outside, the inside, the slot. He can run a fade route. He has the size to him. He has the his hands are a lot better this year, I think, and just everywhere on the field I've seen him play every single position as a wide receiver versus Braxton. I'm just seeing in the slot, but when Braxton's in the slot, bro, he finds the soft
Well, that's what I was going
spot
to
in
say.
his zone.
I wasn't even considering Braxton for this because to me he is the slot guy and that's where he's going to be. I'm talking about that third outside guy, Tyreek, Waddle. Obviously, no conversation we had there, but it is really between I think Ezekama and Chosen. I just said it for the first time. You're welcome, guys. I regret saying it immediately after I said it. That's Robert. That is Robert Anderson.
Robert Anderson.
And Anderson's looked decent. We know he's a quick guy. He's a speed guy. Like we talked about earlier when he blew past Ibanagini. Like that is what he does. That's what he offers. He's not a largely refined route runner. He's not going to high point a pass. He's just going to be one of the fastest guys on the field. And being in the Dolphins offense, he might be the fifth fastest guy on the field just because of all the speed we have around him. But that's what he's been his entire career. He's just going to use his speed. And because of that, that's who he is, it makes me lean the other way to Ezekama, who has more variety in his, like you said, his route running, is more refined route runner, can kind of do it all, but we haven't seen him quite do it yet. We want to see him do it. I think that it is going to end up being Ezekama as the three, probably Chosen, Robbie Anderson, whatever, as a forward. We'll see who makes a team between Braylon Sanders and a few different guys. The tight end group has definitely underwhelmed, but I mean that's kind of been expected. That's the point. We haven't seen them because they're just not involved in the offense.
They're always just there to block, and that's about it. Now,
Yeah.
literally, like the only time I really watched a tight end specifically was when you pointed out how small Julian Hill looked and how he was going to get absolutely run over, and he ended up pulling to block on the free rusher on the left side, and he did fairly well at blocking him. But besides the point, we've barely seen them run any routes. And when they do, it's just like they look so slow compared to everybody else in the offense. And we talked about a lot, like we didn't really see Durham Smythe run a lot of routes last year, and we don't think that a tight end is going to be taking over the Gesicki role. We think the Gesicki role from last year is going to go to a receiver like Ezukama or like Braylon Sanders, who I think it's going to be going to a bigger guy like that who can just take up a lot of space.
Yeah, you're not going to see any guy really emerge, and I'd be surprised if a single tight end even had. What did Gesicki finish with last year? 390, something like that.
I think he broke 400.
I don't think.
But
I'm 95% sure he did. I don't think
He
you're
did have
gonna.
5 touchdowns.
I don't think you're gonna see a tight end on this team break 350 yards. Whether it's Isaiah Higgins, whether it's Hill, whether it's Smythe, whether it's the other guys that we brought in. I don't think there's gonna be a single guy on this offense. They're just not involved, and it makes sense. There's just not talent there. You could argue that this is the worst tight end group in the entire NFL. I don't know, just off the top of my head, I can't think of Seattle maybe is that it? Because at least even if there's not a lot of talent other places, like Detroit has a guy that just drafted. The Raiders just drafted a rookie. The Cardinals have Trey McBride, who's going to his second year. You have guys that eventually could develop into top talent at the tight end position. There's really nothing else in the league like the Dolphins position, where the Dolphins are just saying, we just don't care at all about the tight end. We're going to solely focus in the passing game on the wide receivers.
Yeah, and I kind of agree with William. Last year was just a familiarity thing with the playbook. The guys that really got in there, Sherfield and Craycraft, they were just familiar with how similar of a playbook it was to San Francisco. Also, Ezukama, he did high point one ball in camp on Sunday, I believe it was. But it wasn't really like a contested high point, which I want to see. It was just a really high thrown ball, and he just kind of went up and got it himself. But he definitely has the ability to do that. And as far as Robert Chosen Anderson, it's not like he's washed, right? He may not be the smartest player, but he is what, 2 years removed from back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons.
Might be a little longer ago than that.
It was on the Panthers, and he was on the Jets, I believe, 3 years ago. So I think he had back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons with the Panthers. Then last year's when he had that. I think he's 2 years removed from his back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. So it's not like he's completely washed, and he's super cheap for this offense. I think it's really just going to be everyone is going to have a role to play. Now, remember last year, whenever we really ran the ball and we wanted the wide receivers to block, we didn't really have Tyreek Hill in there because he's too small, can't block. We always put Sherfield and Craycraft in there. So we're going to need someone to go in there and do that. I think Azukama he can do that, can block. I think that's where we're going to use our tight ends is when we run the ball, we're going to line them up in the slot to block on the boundary. I think that's going to kind of be the cases in which we use our tight ends. But as far as the receivers go, I think we're going to carry 6 receivers at least. Obviously, Tyreek Hill, Waddle. I think it's going to be third is Eric Ezukama. Fourth is Braxton. Fifth probably are definitely Chosen. And then sixth, I think, is going to be Braylon Sanders.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be Braylon. He looks pretty good actually in the one-on-ones. He's what, 86? There's a few guys that are very similar in number. I know there's an 83. Is there an 88? I'm 89. I'm not sure. But there's a few guys that are similar in number, and like we were talking about with the defensive linemen, we were looking at every individual guy, somebody we don't recognize, looking at the name and number. But 86 we kept seeing Braylon Sanders run some crisp routes, make some contested catches. He is going against, he's a wide receiver 5, 6, 7, whatever he ends up being. He is going against cornerback 5, 6, 7. But that being said, he is having some success out there and familiar with the team. He played a little bit last year. I'd like to see him make the team. And I think you just mentioned that it probably is the 6. Is there any position groups that we intended to cover that we haven't talked about so far?
I mean, we could talk about who's going to be starting safety between Deshaun Elliott and Brandon Jones when Brandon Jones comes back. I think that's a very interesting thing because Brandon Jones, first time he got team reps, and it was with third stringers, but it was his first, semi-contact that he's had. I mean, that's as much contact as you're going to get in practice, pretty much. I don't think they're going to ramp it up more than that. And he looks pretty decent in there. Once again, third stringers can't really judge too much off of that. But in the individual drills, he looks sharp, and making cuts. Looked confident. He's not wearing the leg sleeve anymore. And we know that he's talked about expanding his role from just being a blitz boy. Now he loves being a blitz boy, but expanding on that, I think he could possibly return to the starting role and Sean Elliott, a third safety in this defense, which we could run a lot of three safety defenses.
Time is kind of against Brandon Jones' side. He got his first contact with the 11-on-11s towards the end of the 11-on-11s on Tuesday, and he only put a jersey on for the first time yesterday. So
no, that's not true.
Well, or whatever it is, you know what I mean.
He had the previous day off, pretty much.
He was just walking around on Monday. He was just walking around the place, basically taking a tour, kind of like Jalen Ramsey, except not on crutches. It's basically what he did. So he's being slightly reintroduced. By the time the first preseason game rolls around, which we are 9 days away from, I do think it's going to be Deshaun Elliott who's going into that list as the starter. Now, whether we'll figure out how many starters actually start for the first preseason game, but time might be against Brandon Jones and how quickly they want to put him there, going in 100%. Not a safety, but Nick Needham we saw getting some work with Sam Madison on the side, so he at the very least he's able to move a little bit. He's on the pup, we know that, but he's making movements. He was able to make those quick bursts, and his was the Achilles, right, or was his the ACL?
His was the Achilles. Everybody else is ACL.
The Achilles. That's almost the biggest injury you can get. You know, obviously, with head injuries, internal organ injuries aside, just ACL, MCL, Achilles. Achilles is the worst. Yeah. Be able to get that quick first step.
Tendons go,
as far as tendons go, so it was good to see him, at the very least, getting some sort of work in. Well, he did. He was just
okay for the work anything. He was getting.
He was doing something.
He was practicing that first step, which that's where you're testing the Achilles at, and he looked good doing it. He didn't look like he had any hesitation putting his foot in the ground, which is something you look for. You look for that's the mental between the ears, kind of like William was talking about with Chosen lacking, but like the mental ability to like, hey, I can do this. And Needham looks like he has that, the mentals aren't there. He's not thinking about it. Looks like he's putting his foot in the ground, trusting his body, which we also talked about earlier with Brandon Jones, Trill Will. So I don't think Needham comes back during preseason. I think it's going to be, I think it's going to be somewhere in the first, 2-3 weeks of the season.
Yeah.
Because it's going to take him, once he's in contact, I think it's going to take him a month to really get back to true form and enough to actually play a starting position, because he'll be backing up. But I think, when healthy, he was one of the best nickel corners in the league. So there's that.
I also think that the coaching staff and the training staff are going to handle pretty much every single injury with a lot more caution and care, because going into the season, they do kind of have a bad rap for how they handled Tua last year. That was on full display for most of the season. So they don't want to be pushing anybody back. And God forbid somebody goes in there, they go in there too early, pick up another injury. And now that's back-to-back seasons. Mike McDaniel put his injured players at risk, and it ended up costing them in the long run.
I mean, we've already seen Stephen A. Smith talk about, and he's like, shut up and coach. Shut up and coach. I don't want to hear anything out your mouth. I don't trust anything out your mouth. Just shut up and coach. I'm not denying that he's a good coach, blah, 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 blah. But, I don't trust anything he said. And it was so bad that even Keyshawn had to go and hey, guys, we're not, saying McDaniel, he's following just the advice. Obviously he has final say, but he's just following the advice of the medical staff. The medical staff is who cleared him. There's a path. There's a path for him to get back to the field and clearing concussion protocol. So there's that. Question: have both of y'all been in training camp? Yes, we have.
Yeah.
Actually, it's funny. We talked about how the other day, Cat for Life actually came up to us, and it was pretty cool to have one of our regulars come up and say hi. So, I mean, hey, if you see one of us at training camp, I know we'll both be there for the scrimmage on Saturday.
Yeah.
In the stadium, given a lot bigger of a place to, find a needle in a haystack. But you see us, don't
I'm not really
come up to us and what's up.
I'm not really a needle. I'm definitely somebody who's kind of easy to spot out.
Okay, Mr. 6'6" for no reason.
All right, Mr. 5'11", who has no females in his life.
Yeah, too many females in your life.
2. Whoa, whoa. I have 1. Whoa, whoa, whoa. False accusations. I don't like. That was uncalled for. That is completely false. Not even joke around. I don't think Liz is watching. I almost told her to watch. So fuck you. Because like that is just entirely false. And you're trying to get me in trouble for something that is so inherently not true.
I had to. I'm
no, you didn't.
By the way,
he's 5'11".
I'm 6 foot. He's 6'6" for no reason.
I'm going to drive an hour and a half and murder you for that.
I'm clipping that.
No, you're not. That's just I've been on you because you still are refusing to make shorts. That is one thing that if you do, no. I'm going to drive to your house and break your computer.
I'll take my computer back then, bro.
Watch. You're 5'11", all right? Are you gonna take something from me?
6 foot, and I'm going to, bro.
Can't
man, that's funny.
But yes, I'm rather large individual. So if you see me, come say hi. And if you do see me, there's a solid chance that I will be killing this person that you see on screen next to me.
Oh man! By the way, Liz, if you are watching, I'm just messing with him.
I don't think I'm 90%. I haven't got a text message yet, so
that's a good thing. So
I'm 90% sure she's not watching. I think that's a good place to call that though. It's we both I think agree that it's been mostly a positive camp and a lot of good coming forth so far.
Offense starting to click, yeah.
Offense starting to click. The defense is looking much improved from what it was last year. So there was no practice today. I assume there's practice tomorrow.
There is practice tomorrow. I don't think I'll make that one. And
I won't for sure.
There's a member day on Friday. I won't be attending that either, but I will be on the scrimmage on Saturday.
So if y'all see us at the scrimmage or any of the training camps the following week, again, come say hi. It was very refreshing and very funny to actually meet somebody who, ironically, is like the first stream he hasn't watched. Like,
yo, for real.
Like, bro, you come say hi to us, and then you don't show up to the stream.
He'll probably watch this. He'll probably watch later.
Shout out to Alex. But also, shout out to all y'all who've been in here.
Hey,
Jesus.
He's here.
Is he?
Yo,
hey.
Yeah. What's good, bro?
We were just talking about you. Thank you for coming.
Just talking about you. Thank you, bro. Appreciate you, homie.
I'm sorry, but we're ending. So, with that, thank y'all.
On that note,
thank y'all very much for showing us this stream. Thanks to Cap. Thanks for William for getting in the comments. Thanks for, like I said, Cap for coming up and saying hi to us. William, did I say Alex? My bad. Thank you for coming up to us, saying hi to us. If y'all see us, please make sure to. But thank y'all very much for tuning into the stream. We are going to be live every single Wednesday. Well, I always say 7 o'clock, and then it usually ends up being 7:15. This time it was 7:20. So we're actually getting worse, guys. We're actually getting worse. So
we'll get better. We'll get better.
I wouldn't count on that. I'm not making any guarantees. It is not my fault. I had to download everything back onto this computer.
Yeah.
And then after downloading, set everything up back on the computer. So yeah, we'll hopefully get a little better. Actually, we will be getting better. We will be getting better because I'm not working Wednesdays anymore after this week. So we will definitely be better. But yeah, thank you all very much for watching. Thank you all for tuning in. Look for some videos starting tomorrow. If you haven't done so already, make sure to like, subscribe. Thank you all very much for watching. Jacob,